Once a year at Microsoft we had the Hack Week. The Hack Week consists in 4 days where you can think about an idea, create a project, and spend that time to develop that idea. Other developers or teammates at Microsoft can just join your project to help you to develop that idea, or if you don't have anything in mind, you can just explore the list of existing projects created by others and join force to that team to develop that idea. In previous year, I developed, for example, the graphics control library. That was a library where created all the controls that is already exist in Xamarin Fonts Visual using the native drawing APIs or FigmaSharp to draw all these controls, implementing Cupertino, Fluent, and Material Design. After create that experimental library, of course, appears a big amount of questions and ideas about, hey, what happens with the performance? Let's benchmark it correctly. What's happening with, for example, the accessibility? Let's fix the problem about how to implement the accessibility in a drawn control, etc. And other of the main questions always has been, hey, what's happening if suddenly Google announced Material Design 4 with a new implementation and changing the appearance of a big amount of the controls? To solve that question, this year I thought in implement a tool that will just take a design from Figma, for example, an implementation from Material 4, in case that exists one day, and will use, using the Figma APIs, get the information of all the nodes, create a list with all the hierarchy of the different nodes, and will use generate code for Microsoft Maui Graphics. So in that way, we can use easily and quickly just export to Maui Graphics code a design from Figma. And today, I want to share with you the result of this experimental project from Figma to Maui Graphics. Let's go. As I said previously, in this kind of hack weeks, I worked in develop and solve some ideas about, for example, get a pixel perfect solution with drone controls, implementing Cupertino, Fluent, and Material Designs in all the platforms supported by .NET MAUI. This is great, it's fantastic, and even I like to match the idea. I think that could solve many problems. And for that reason, I created another custom library called Aloha Kit with other kind of controls, like for example, a pulse icon button or some controls like progress radial or gauge control, charts, etc. But today I want to put the focus on the new project, the Figma to Maui Graphics. Mostly turns your Figma design into a NET MAUI Graphics code. How it works, first of all, I'm going to take a look to it working, and then let's take a quick look to the code. This is the project for Figma Maui Graphics, and I have the tool here. Mostly you need to put the Figma access token. It's something that you can get easily accessing to the Figma developer documentation, and you can get it with a few steps in a few minutes. You can paste that Figma token here, and then the only thing that you need is put here the file ID from the document that you want to export to code. To do that, you need to go to a Figma document, for example, this document. After, in the URL, after the file name, this identifier is what you need to copy and paste in the tool. Then the only thing that you need to do is tap the generate button. This will do different things. The first thing that will do is use access to the Figma API and requesting all the information from all the nodes, all this hierarchy that you can see here in Figma, with all the different kind of nodes. We'll get in memory a hierarchy with rectangle nodes, vector nodes, frame nodes, etc. With all this information, we are going to use a helper that will generate Maui Graphics code based on all these nodes. If you get a frame node, we are going to draw well, different stuff based on this kind of node, but mostly a round rectangle or a rectangle. We are going to get from this frame all these properties that we can get here: the width, the height, the positioning, the different properties like the background color, the border radius, etc. And we are going to transform this kind of properties from Figma to Maui Graphics. In this case, we are using the stroke color, the stroke size, etc. We are going to do the same with all the different nodes. For example, with text, we are going to use the draw stream method. Probably there are also ellipses, shapes, vectors, etc. And after habit, when the code is generated, the same tool is going to compile the code to be sure that all this generated code is correctly. So after that, you can use right click and copy one of the specific parts of the code, or you can tap the export button to save this generated code to a file class. The other option is select everything and copy, and to test it, you can just test it in your Maui application. To draw all this, the only thing that you need is a graphics view control. It's a new view in .NET MAUI that is generating a native canvas where we can draw everything, creating a drawable. It's a class implementing the drawable interface. We only need to implement the draw method, and as you can see, all the generated code is all this long piece of code that I pasted here. And if I launch this application, the generated code is something like this. So it's mostly our design, just generated and drawing everything. This is really, really useful if we want to create some prototypes, but mostly I think it's really useful to create drawn controls. For example, we can just select this player and we can just copy it and just generate it. To do it, we only need to align the control, and after that, we are going to just generate the player. And the same could happen, for example, with charts, where, for example, the axis will be in the same position always. The only change will be the position of the different bars or the points or lines or whatever. And exporting mostly all this code increase a lot of productivity, because the only thing that we need to do is just create a control, a drawn control, a control that create a new class that inherits from graphics view, and in that view implement all bindable properties, for example, the item source property in the case of the chart. And after that, just pass the list of the points, for example, to the drawable to invalidate it and set the correct position of the bars, points, lines, or whatever. But the big amount of code necessary to draw, the positionings correctly with the axis, etc., will be the same, and will be something that will reduce a lot the necessary amount of time to create the control. The same happens for us, for example, to date the graphics control library. For example, here I have all the implementations of the button in Fluent Design. And to get the correct sizing, states, based if the button is filled, outlined, etc., we can use replace the Figma file ID to use this new ID, tap the generate button, copy the code, and get now something like this. This is generated with all the necessary code to render exactly and correctly a button in the Fluent Design. Again, we can reuse this code to create a drawn control, a class that inherits from the graphics view using the drawable class, etc., etc. But as you can imagine, this is a project that just started, is generating a big amount of code, is generating all kinds of shapes, is generating text, is generating vectors, is generating a lot of things that allow you to generate code for more or less complex designs, but the fact is like there are still some pending functionality. In the short term, I would love to include a previewer directly in the tool. I think that will just increase a little bit more the productivity. And with that, there are some pending stuff to be generated. For example, the transformations like a rotation, etc., for example, in a vector is not implemented. And then what I would love to do is group all the generated code in different methods. For example, if we have something like, let me go back in this design, if we have something like this group, create, for example, call it, for example, dashboard, we can just generate a draw dashboard method that will draw all these elements. We can create a draw player method, drawing all the player, etc. Now what we create is the same piece of code generating all the root node code, but create something like split in different methods is perfectly possible, and I think will increase the readability, the reusability, and will be something more useful at the end. So Figma to Maui Graphics is a tool that turns your Figma design into .NET MAUI Graphics code. Remember that it's generating code, and remember that it's generating code for .NET MAUI Graphics. It's not generating directly a .NET MAUI application. It's not generating directly the code for .NET MAUI with channel code, with views, etc. And we reached the end of the video. I really hope that you enjoy the content, but I want to know, what do you think about this kind of tooling? It's something that you are interested to use by yourself or your company? Would you collaborate more, for example, with designers using this kind of stuff? Please, as always, leave your feedback in the comments of the video, and if you enjoy it, remember to tap the subscribe button, and see you soon. Bye.